Welcome, it's Brother Rob Wilson from the Love Agenda channel, and I'm bringing you a short, and unfamiliar territory. I'm coming from just from my laptop in my kitchen right after lunch. So I caught a hold of this video with Marc Lamont Hill and a young fella that I enjoyed watching him handle this Marc Lamont Hill, because Marc Lamont Hill is well known in my observation. He's well known for just running over the top of his guests. And the other day I shared a video with him and Professor Jason Hill, where Professor Hill handled him well, and he's runs over guests such as Christopher Rufo and others who he won't even let talk. He basically blasts them with his spiel, and so he brings on a young man named C.J. Pearson, who's an up and comer, and he's obviously going to be a world changer. And I'm gonna share the interview with you first, and then I'm going to conclude with C.J. Pearson's July 4th message to America. And it just instills in me the heart of and the realization that there are some good, incredible, intelligent, and articulate young people who can change this nation and who are changing this nation. So let me go on to the interview here. And this is Marc Lamont Hill. And again, just like he did with Professor Jason Hill, and I'm only going to do about 10 minutes of this, just so you can see how C.J. Pearson handles him, okay? And then I'm going to conclude with C.J. Pearson's video message on July 4th. I encourage you to look him up. I found him on Facebook, and I'm following C.J. Pearson now, and he's definitely he's 18 years old, and he's an incredible young man who's going to do some very positive things for this country. And Marc Lamont Hill again bit off way more than he could chew.
Black news tonight. After Iowa, Florida just hours ago has joined the list of states banning the teaching of critical race theory in schools. According to WJXT of Jacksonville, in today's state board meeting, a last-minute amendment was added to the original proposal. It spells out critical race theory as well as the 1619 Project as examples of theories that distort historical events and are inconsistent with the state board mandates. Many attendees showed their support in protest after a member of the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville called on the board to, quote, allow the teachers to teach the truth. Allow teachers to teach the truth. Allow teachers to teach the truth. The protest fell on the deaf ears as the board voted to approve the new amendment banning the theory from Florida classrooms. Joining me now is C.J. Pearson. He is the campaign manager for Georgia gubernatorial candidate Vernon Jones. He also runs a nonprofit, and he is a very prominent young conservative. C.J., good to see you. Welcome to Black News Tonight.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I want to make sure that I have understood your position clearly. I don't want to presume that yours is the exact same as anyone else's. Do you oppose the teaching of critical race theory and the 1619 Project in schools?
I oppose the teaching of Black victimization, period. I think that the color of our skin should not dictate our future. It doesn't determine our future. I think that Black people deserve a lot more credit than that. I also believe that teaching our children to hate other people because of the color of their skin or to blame their situation on someone of another race is also wrong. It's a step backwards, not a step forward. People describe critical race theory as progressive, but it's anything but. As we seek to relitigate the past, all we're doing is rehashing old wounds, and they aren't affecting, the future of these young people. Young Black kids do not need to be told that because of the color of their skin, they won't be able to overcome the circumstances they find themselves in. That's not going to uplift our community. That's not going to push our people forward. All it's going to do is just, again, push us further towards victimization and not towards anywhere towards empowerment.
Okay, so just for clarity's sake, because I'm not sure you answered the question, do you specifically oppose?
I don't think you make it more clear than that. And so this basically Marc Lamont Hill is insulting him that he didn't give the answer that he so chose that he should have give, which is yes or no. So categorically, he says no, he doesn't support the teaching, he disagrees with the teaching, and then we're going to go into this cerebral insult competition, and it's just not going to work.
Teaching of critical race theory and the 1619 Project in schools?
Yeah, I do, and the reason I oppose it
Okay,
is
cool,
again
cool.
because I oppose
Now,
black
I
victimization.
got your reason. Fair. Okay. One of the things that you said. Second question. Have you read the 1619 Project?
I am familiar with the work of the New York Times there with that project. Here's the deal. We can talk about all the reasons that
No, no, no.
America
But,
is
but
the so-called.
CJ, 1 second though. CJ, 1 second though. I just want to make sure so that we can have a full conversation. I just want to make sure for clarity's sake. Have you? I know you're familiar with it, but have you actually read it?
I'm familiar with her work, yes.
But have you read the 1619?
Okay, and this is the technique of the supporters that they want to give everyone who is not a supporter a reading assignment, and not everyone has the time, the inclination, or the desire to bend their will to their reading assignments. However, and it's also it's a straw man because it's like to say that in order to be opposed to Nazi Germany and the horrific and atrocious actions that took place against the Jewish people and the world, in order to oppose that, you really have to have read Mein Kampf first. It's totally unnecessary. If you know the origins, you can know whether you are capable, competent, and whether you agree or disagree. And the 1619 Project was written by the tenets of critical race theory. And he never gives this answer, but I'm going to go ahead and give it. Here's the book. Here's the book, Critical Race Theory, an Introduction, written by Richard Delgado and Gene Stefanachik. And, everybody doesn't have time to, let me go. I highlight what they say. And they keep trying to present critical race theory as if it's historical or it has something to do with teaching history. It has nothing to do with teaching history. It has to do with rewriting and changing history. And it's a movement that is tied to critical theory, which has its origins, its roots, and its intentions and its motives rooted in a neo-Marxism. Page 3 of Critical Race Theory and Introduction. The critical race theory movement, it says nothing to do with history, it's a movement, is a collection of activists and scholars engaged in studying and transforming the relationship among race, racism, and power. This entire thing is along the lines of Marx's original Communist Manifesto, which described the world and had an ideological viewpoint of the world as a class struggle against bourgeois, which is the wealthy elite, and proletariat, which is working class. Now, the new neo-Marxism changes the class struggle from elite and working class to white supremacist. Is they're to oppressor and oppressed. And in all circumstances, white people are the oppressor. They're white supremacists. This book goes on to say that white supremacy is baked into the fabric of American culture and cannot be, it's irredeemable. The movement considers many of the same issues that conventional civil rights and ethnic studies discourse take up, but places them in a broader perspective that includes economics, history, setting, group and self-interest and emotions, and the unconscious. So it's getting into every type of other, it's getting into psychology and supposedly subconscious beliefs and And it says, unlike traditional civil rights discourse, which stresses incremental and step by step progress, critical race theory questions the very foundation of the liberal order, including equality theory. So it questions the belief and the premise that we believe that all people are created equal, and they're equal in the sight of God, and they're equal in the sight of man. It questions legal reasoning. It questions enlightenment and rationalism and the neutral principles of constitutional law. So in other words, they question and oppose neutral principles of constitutional law, one of which obviously is the belief that all people are innocent until proven guilty. So he may not have, and he's been involved in this. He goes on to say in his college study or AP class studies. However, he doesn't have to read up on it no more than someone has to read up on Mein Kampf to understand they don't agree with Nazism, okay? And they don't believe in demagogues. And I'm going to let this go on.
Project in particular.
I'm familiar with her work. We're talking about critical race theory. I don't think all of critical
Okay.
race theory is completely dependent upon the New York Times' reporting of the 1619 Project. Unless it is.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And that's fair. The reason I was asking is because this particular bill in Florida, though, was specifically named both critical race theory and the 1619 Project. So I was asking if you'd read it since you oppose it. But I understand you're saying you're familiar with her work, even if you haven't read the specific 1619 Project in its entirety. You're saying you're familiar with Nicole Hannah-Jones's work. I would wager to say that it might be helpful to read it in its entirety before taking that position. But the a priori approach is also doable. Let me move to another piece of this. You said that teaching that we should hate people. You said two things. One, you said that the idea of teaching people that because of the color of their skin, they won't be able to succeed in America, or that the color of their skin is a reasonable explanation for their failure to succeed. The critical race theory movement, the critical race theory research, critical race theory writing, do you believe that it argues that?
Yeah, it's quite clear. You know, people on the left have managed to somehow conflate Black history with critical race theory. It's not that. You know, no one on the right is making the argument that you shouldn't be teaching students, young people, about Black history. People are saying that you shouldn't teach young people that racism is acceptable if it's directed towards white people. That's what's wrong here. It's teaching young people that we're not in control of our own destiny, young people of color to be specific, that we're not in control of our own destiny, and that is wrong. Today, you look at the words of Martin Luther King Jr. Judge not someone by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. Critical race theory is absolutely opposed to that logic, opposed to that teaching, and that's why we're against it. It's not because we're trying to take Black history out of our schools. We're trying to take racism out of our schools, which is unfortunately what critical race theory has morphed itself into.
Do you think that schools would be better off if they followed the example in the words of Martin Luther King rather than critical race theory?
Yeah, I think that they would exactly be better off if they did that. Again, teaching young people, look at your neighbor.
That's fair. No, that's fair. Well, let me ask a follow up to. Let me ask a follow up. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. There's a time delay. My question is, Martin Luther King, before he died, said that he was apt to believe that most white Americans were unconscious racists. Do you agree with that part of Martin Luther King's teaching, and do you think that that should be taught in school?
Okay, now it's very easy to take. They take the Lord's name in vain. Okay, obviously, because this has little to do with Christian values. But to take the name of Dr. King in vain, what he's about to propose, I've read King's autobiography, I don't know, a dozen times, and this may have been something he said, and I've done tons of research for the last 20 years on Dr. King. One of my favorite quotes is, "We live in an inescapable web of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly affects all indirectly, and an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." That's one of my favorite quotes. But what he's about to say, I've never read it. I've never heard of it. And I just wonder how much falseness a person would be willing to promote, and how easy it is to say somebody said something that most people don't know of them ever saying. Maybe he did, but I don't. I need to know the book and the area and the exact place and the quote, since he's so opt on who's read what and who knows what. And I've like I said, I've read this. I've highlighted what this says. This is not about history. It's about changing history. And it's about a takeover. It's about a Marxist takeover.
That seems to be in line with critical race theory.
Well, I think what also Martin Luther King implored people to do, again, to go back to what I was saying.
No. Can you answer that specific question? Can you answer that specific question? Because if you're saying we should follow King's example, and King argued that.
Now, again, and he does an excellent job. C.J. Pearson does an excellent job of just mopping the floor up with Marc Lamont Hill. But again, he's not alert enough, and he doesn't say, well, where's that written at? Where do you find that at? Because I've never heard of that. And he's presenting something as evidentiary fact that, quite frankly, I mean, I've read it a lot. I've studied the man, autobiography, videography of Dr. King. He's one of my greatest heroes. And this is the thing. C.J. Pearson is a hero. I'm you don't have to be the same color as someone to admire them and to respect them and to affirm them and to promote them. You know what I'm saying? When, of course, when you're not a racist, that's the way it works. But I have found Dr. King's courage, his nonviolent direct action, his continuous bringing the methodology in keeping with nonviolent, peaceful resistance. He was committed to that when everyone else tried to drag it off the mark. I love, admire, and he's one of my greatest heroes. Jesus, my dad, Dr. King, some labor union activists before they went dirty, but this just it's just simply not presented as fact, and he's berated.
Most whites were subconscious racists. I'm asking you to answer that specific question. Do you agree with that piece of Martin Luther King's teaching, and do you agree that that should be taught in school?
Well, Mark, if you let me answer the question, I gladly will. Here's again, the deal is we can parse Martin Luther King's words all day long. The fact of the matter is that any type of racism is unacceptable, whether it's directed at black people, white people, Asian people, yellow people, green people. It is wrong. It has no place in our schools and certainly has no place in being taxpayer funded.
Okay, just to be clear, you didn't answer the question about Martin King, but I won't badger you on it. I'll move on to another question. But my question was if you agree with Martin Luther King on that issue, and you have not answered it. But I'll move on to another question here. You said that critical race theory teaches to hate white people. You said that critical race theory teaches that black people won't succeed, or that their race is the reason why they don't succeed in America. What critical race theorist argues that? Can you name one, just one, out of the hundreds of people who've written in critical race theory? Can you name one who says that?
We're talking about the body of work here, Mark. I understand your tactic. You ask specific
Name one.
questions.
No, I'm asking you to name one.
Mark,
I'm asking you to name just one.
Let me talk. Let me talk, Mark. I understand your tactic. You ask these specific questions to flex your PhD degree. I get it. That's cool. But also, too, let's talk about the total body of work. It's not limited to one particular scholar. We're talking about the body of work. The body of work that teaches that black people are disadvantaged because of the color of their skin. The body of work that teaches that all white people, as you said, are apparently unconscious racists. The body of work that tells young black folks in this state, in this country, that we are nothing more than our circumstances. That is not how we propel our people. That is not how we push forward. That is not how we become the independent black people, black community that I know you want us to be, Mark, deep down. That's not how we move our people forward.
Right.
At all.
So just to be clear, the unconscious.
I'm going to leave it there. Let me see. I might do a part two of this. This is a long interview for Marc Lamont Hill. He was evidently shaken. I mean, to me, he's shaken, and I would be too if I were him and just treated this young man like a complete. In my opinion, he treats this young man like a complete idiot, and he finds out that's not who you're dealing with. You're dealing with an educated man, an articulate young man, a passionate young man, and a person who's keeping it focused. And that's what happens a lot of times when people come on. Marc Lamont Hill will not let them stay focused on their message and keeps wanting to drag people back to their material. It would be like for me as a Christian man, I read the Word of God. My Bible's sitting over there. But then someone says, "Well, how can you disagree with Satanism if you haven't read the Satanist Bible?" And they have a Bible, and that's just ludicrous. Why would I need to read something which is in direct opposition to everything that I represent and believe, and I know that. And right now, this is proving to me that this is not about race. This is a technique to organize for political power. And they mention in here other things that are critical theories, like such as critical gender studies and critical sexual studies and critical Latino studies. So, all of these are to see how the system that exists is opposed to transgender and homosexuals and Latinos and basically come up with their own writings for their own different groups. But then Kimberly Crenshaw brings in the idea of intersectionality, which is to make known or visible or manifest how that all of these groups have these intersections in oppression. That's what unites this whole system together. I remember when there was a protest for Black Lives Matter, and one of the black men down there said, "Seen these transgender homosexual activists come up and speak at the microphone about homosexuality," and I overheard him say, "What are they doing? What are they talking about that for? This isn't what this is about." And that's when I really started digging deeper into this and found out that it is a movement, that it is a political movement, that it is that yes, it claims to be for the oppressed and versus the oppressor, but it unites all these different groups together. And at some point in time, somebody knew it was going to be the majority. And then the people who were once the alleged oppressors are going to be oppressed. So we're really fighting for a better country. We're in a country which has not been all that the Constitution called us to be or the aspirations of the Constitution. We haven't lived up to it. It's just it is what it is. Slavery existed as a horrible blight to the history of this nation. Racism existed. Terrible violence against African American people existed, and others. But this nation is not what it was, and it has continually been a group of people who work together, apart from all races and across all, male and female, and across all races, to continue the aspiration of to realize the dream that was considered the American dream, which was a place of equality and not a place of marginalization or superiority. But again, it is as I read it earlier. We have grown, we have become better, we have become more and more who we aspire to be. We've done that together. There's been people of every race who've aspired to make this nation a greater, more democratic, and more constitutionally righteous nation for all people. That's been all of our aspirations. But there's a segment, and there is a political system that doesn't want to recognize where we've been and where we are, which is a stark contrast to where we've been. It's something to celebrate. It's something to be thankful for. It's something to be rejoicing in. And the destiny and the beautiful identity, the dream realized for everyone, as Dr. King spoke of, is something that we all aspire to and work towards achieving together, not by labeling people, not by counter racism, not by creating cancel cultures and then making a people to make a people. The moment you don't buy into the neo-Marxist agenda, you're a white supremacist and a racist. I'm even baffled how Larry Elder is a is the black face of white supremacy. Does that not tell folks that this doesn't have anything to do with race? It has to do with politics. They're t- and also they say in their book that it's a social construct. But it's a social construct that evidently you want to perpetuate. You want to perpetuate it as a social construct. Because that's not how I classify, identify, and stigmatize people. I vibe and I tribe with people who are of the same vibe as me. Honesty, integrity, authenticity, courageousness, like C.J. Pearson. People of responsibility, people of accountability, people of character. I love and vibe with people of character who take responsibility and who want to do better. All they want is help to do better. Just like me. I want to do better. Just help me do better. Amen. I'm not going to blame nobody. Just teach me something. Help me. All right, listen to this closing 4th of July address. I can see this young man being a future president of the United States. He's got it in him. I don't know this. I don't know him, but I can sense his spirit, and I'm proud of him. I'm proud to be a fellow citizen of this nation with this young man.
Hi guys, CJ Pearson here. Oftentimes on this app, you'll see young people like me bashing America, hating on America for likes and retweets. Led astray by the fact that in so many colleges today, all you hear about is the bad America's done. You have to deal with critical race theory that teaches you that your country is the most racist nation in the world. You hear from people like celebrities who tell you that America is sexist and just the worst nation on earth. But you don't often hear enough about all the great things America's done. You don't often hear enough from people how proud they are to be an American. So I wanted to just do that today. I wanted to just talk about how proud I am to be an American. I don't believe that America is a racist nation. I don't believe that America is a sexist nation. And I also don't believe that I will ever apologize. Actually, I know that I will never apologize for being an American in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. There is no debate about it. That is not opinion. That is not conjecture. That is a matter of fact. Guys, this is a country where you can start from the very bottom of society and work your way to the top and accomplish unparalleled things that you could never, ever imagine. Now, people in the media, your college professors, wherever they may be, may want you to be a victim. They may want you to think that America is rooting for your demise, rooting for your failure, but I'm here to tell you that it is not. Guys, you're going to see plenty of people hating on America today. That's why we need to tell people why we love this country. Because, guys, I will never be bullied into, I will never be forced into, I will never be harassed into apologizing for how great this nation is and how blessed we are to be a part of it. Because guys, guess what? If our nation wasn't that great nation that I'm talking about today, if America wasn't that shining city on a hill that I'm talking about today, then all of these people who hate this country so damn much would pack their bags and leave. But yet, where are they? Still right here. And they're not leaving. They're not leaving anytime soon.
Oh, all I'm going to say is I'll vote for CJ. Amen. Well, this brother here, the Love Agenda YouTube channel. And when you love the truth, when you love righteousness, and when you love courageousness, and when you love rational, logical people, logical debates, and things rooted and grounded in what works, you love a brother like this. And pointing right like this, C.J. Pearson. He has my vote. What do you think? Leave a comment, share, and if you're impressed, share, like and comment. Let's support this young man in his future. Peace and love in Jesus' name. Keep it up.